Well, I got something interesting to talk about today. I did a video on it from my perception, but it's great to discuss it with you. Hollywood's depiction of the mob in movies, how it creates the perception of people that that's what it's really all about, in some of these movies. And talked about it and I got some pretty good feedback, but I'd like to talk about it with you.
Hi, I'm Chazz Palminteri,
The Wise, and I'm Michael Franzese.
the wise guy.
And here we are back again. Chazz, you're out of town. You're in Florida.
Yes, in Palm Beach, having a great time.
That's great. How's the weather been, by the way?
Good. The weather's good. I love it here. I've been here for like 3 weeks, man. I love it. It's really
No
great.
rain? No rain the past couple of days?
Not much. You know what they say about Florida? If you don't like the weather, hang around for 15 minutes. It
Yeah.
changes. It rains like a little bit, and then it just stops, and the sun comes out. It's been great. Yeah, it's great here. You like Florida?
I love Florida. If my wife would move, I would move to Florida. I used to live
Yeah.
there in Palm Beach, and I loved it.
Oh yeah.
But she's not going anywhere. We're in Newport Beach, not Palm Beach, so that's where we're staying.
Let me tell you about Florida. They obey the law here, babe. I
Yeah.
tell you that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You
Well, I
don't see
think
any. Yeah.
DeSantis has it under control for now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. You got to have it under control because in human nature, people take advantage. You got to be careful with that.
Absolutely. Well, I got something interesting to talk about today. I did a video on it from my perception, but it's great to discuss it with you. And that's all about Hollywood's depiction of the mob in movies, how it creates the perception of people that that's what it's really all about, in some of these movies. And talked about it and I got some pretty good feedback, but I'd like to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll give you a couple of points and let me see what you think about it.
All right.
First of all, romanticizing the mafia. Many films and TV shows have portrayed the mafia in a glamorous and romanticized manner, focusing on the extravagant lifestyles, the power and loyalty within these criminal organizations. So what I think of right away, you got to think of The Godfather,
Oh, immediately. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I mean,
And
before, and you have maybe, I mean, we're the same age. So, and we could have maybe just forgot, but I don't remember. Now, family members, that's different. But other than family members, I'm talking about greeting people in a bar, in a restaurant. I don't remember having to kiss everybody until The Godfather came out. I swear to God. After The Godfather came out, I hated to go to certain bars. I kissed more guys than my wife. It was incredible. Every guy kisses, kisses. I don't remember that. Am I wrong or am I crazy?
no, well, I kind of remember it because growing up with my dad, anytime he
Yes.
came over the house, they would kiss like that. But
Okay.
so yes, but let me ask you this. You were on the street, you saw and knew a lot of people, you grew up in the neighborhoods.
Yes.
Did you see guys carrying themselves differently after The Godfather came out?
No question. Yes. What I saw was wannabe disappointed wise guys wanting to be wise guys. That was the genesis, The Godfather, where it just blew up, where anybody who was like a soldier or something, not even a soldier, a hanger-oner, thought he was a wise guy, would start wearing suits, start walking around, have a roll with a rubber band, give him a drink, give her a drink. It created a lot of make-believe wise guys, coffee and cake wise guys, we call them.
Absolutely. And even at a young age, because I was young too, like you, we were young. But I noticed it the same thing. Guys were carrying themselves differently,
Yeah.
talking differently, acting differently. I don't think any movie in that life in that genre had an impact like Godfathers 1 and 2 did. Really.
No, yeah, there was this guy, and this was before The Godfather, obviously. Um, but he would, he was like a wannabe. I'll never forget it. And he would always actually Jimmy Whispers comes from a character that was after The Godfather that was in the neighborhood. He was in probably in the late 70s, early 80s. And he always thought he was in the mob.
Mhm.
And that's where I got the name from. So he would whisper to everybody. But he would whisper things like, Hey, you want to get something to eat? You want to do this? He wouldn't even say bad things, but he always felt the FBI was listening. And I would say to him, Jimmy, nobody's listening to you. Nobody's listening to you. You're not a mom guy. Nobody cares what you got to say.
Right.
And he would, and that's where that came from,
Yeah.
when I wrote that character. So yes, you're right. Yes, it created a lot of monsters. It really did.
And it really did. I think that was those two movies romanticized that life more than any other movie, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, The Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, even if you, I mean, remember the early mom movies like I think Little Caesar or
White Heat. Remember White Heat?
White Heat.
Yeah, with James
Yeah,
Cagney.
yeah, they didn't really romanticize. No,
Oh,
I don't think they did. No,
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 they were gangsters.
they were gangsters.
When you looked at The Godfather and Marlon Brando and Mike, you didn't look at them like as a gangster. You looked at them as a upper echelon racketeer
Family.
mobster, you know?
Yeah, they were family-like.
Yeah.
And it was such a brilliant. I mean, you think about it with Mario Puzo wrote a brilliant script, a brilliant book, and I guess that's why they call it the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah.
Because it was.
And I will tell you this, up until seeing The Godfather, I never heard of anybody being called the Godfather. The boss was the boss. He wasn't a Godfather. Maybe in
Right,
Italy like that, but it wasn't like that here. You were the
right.
boss. That was
You were the
it.
boss. He was the
They didn't even call you Don here. They called you the boss. That was it. And that goes back to Carlo Gambino and you were the boss. So the Godfather created those two words, and maybe it was said like that in Italy. I don't know, but it was very interesting.
yeah, yeah. I wonder, you know what? That's a very good point. Because a godfather is somebody who you name to protect your child if something happens to you. A godfather cares about your child's, I guess, well-being and also his
Yeah,
religious affiliation. But where did Godfather get involved with the mob? That's a damn good question. Anybody who has that answer out there, please.
yeah,
I'm going to look it up when I finish this. But how did Godfather weave its way into the mob? That's what I want to know.
yeah. And I mean, Godfather in our life was called a Gumbada, and obviously
Yes.
it was a position, it was a position of honor and respect. I have probably 15 God kids because people ask me to be the, Gumbada. I don't. I sadly say I don't even know them all now, uh,
Yeah.
it was a position of respect, but never attributed to the boss. We never called him
Right.
the Godfather.
That's a. You know what? That's a. And believe me, and you and I've been around a while, and we don't know the answer to that. So I appreciate if anybody does have it to let us know
Yeah,
because
it's
yeah,
good.
how did that come in there? Yeah.
Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
This I think is important. Humanizing the characters. Hollywood has often portrayed mafia characters as complex individuals with their own set of values, a strong sense of family, and a code of honor. The portrayal can make viewers empathize with these characters and overlook the criminal activities they engage in. When I think of this, I think of The Sopranos, because who is
Right.
a complex guy than Tony Soprano, right?
Wow. Yeah.
All
Yes.
his family issues, dealing with a psychiatrist, and they humanized him in a big way. You saw
Yeah.
flaws for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I think there was The Godfather. Then years later, when The Sopranos came, there was a whole new generation who saw the like wise guys at home dealing with their kids at school and dealing with problems. And I think that's why the world just and the David Chase script was so well written and it just made them people,
Yeah.
real people. And I think that's why it's probably one of the great TV series of all time. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think, maybe up until that point, the way they were portrayed, even in The Godfather, I mean, when Marlon Brando is crying over his son being killed, and Michael,
Right.
you know, when I mean, you humanize these characters to a point where people can relate to the troubles that they were having, like they have it in their own life. And same with the Sopranos. You know, he had trouble with his kids. You know, him and his wife had issues. He's got emotional problems. He's going to see a psychiatrist. And you know what? All this is true. I mean, moms
Yes.
have issues. There's no question, you know?
Yeah, I saw this great scene I'll never forget this scene on The Sopranos. It was very subtle, but oh my God, did I laugh. Tony Soprano finally gets separation from his wife, a legal separation.
Uh,
So he's playing pool. I don't know if it was the divorce or separation, it was one or the other. And he's playing pool in the Wise Guy Club, and Silvio walks in and he says, "Hey, so how do you like single life?" And Tony says, "How do I like single life? I fuck whoever I want. I stay out late. I can say what I want to say. I go wherever I want to go." So Sil goes, "Oh, I guess things haven't changed." you know,
I remember that.
remember that? He goes, "So
Yeah,
things haven't changed." I mean, it's
yeah.
so perfect that I
It's,
never forgot that, and it was just so subtle and funny, because these guys. But it's true, they always were married, and they always had a gumata, always,
yeah,
always had a
that's
gumata.
true.
I mean, do you remember any wise guy? I'm sure there was. I think the old timers probably who didn't have a gumata. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you
I
know,
don't
again,
know.
I think the older guys played it differently, but I don't want to swear to it. I don't know.
Yeah, me either.
I don't know.
Yeah, do you know my a friend of mine? He said his uncle, excuse me, got married in Italy, in Sicily, and after the wedding, the priest said to his uncle, to the girl, to his wife, "Look, I just want to explain something to you. He's going to have a mistress. It's probably going to happen. It doesn't mean anything. Don't let it bother you." I said, "Come on, a priest told her that?" And this is what he said to me. He goes, "Yes, that don't cause a divorce by just relax about it." I was like, "Holy shit, wow."
Yeah,
I guess the priest had a mistress too. Who knows?
very possible.
It's very possible. I don't
But
know.
anyway, that's true. You know, humanizing. I mean, the movies have done that, and I think in a way that's a good thing. You know, because
Yes.
at least it showed we had flaws and guys were human. Perpetuating stereotypes. Now, this one here, Hollywood has often relied on stereotypes when portraying the mafia, such as the Italian American mobster with a thick accent and a love for pasta. Well, listen, all Italians love pasta. I don't think that's a stereotype. I mean, everybody loves pasta. I don't know people that don't. And
Yeah,
it's,
I don't like the stereotype of the wise guy being dumb.
yeah,
That's what I don't like. You could be dumb, but as long as you have something else. I mean, when I played Cheech in Bullets Over Broadway, he was dumb, but he was very smart. He was a brilliant playwright. So if you do it like that, I just don't like when they play it like they're just dumb people and they're not. And
yeah.
they're, and they're not.
I don't like stereotypes of any type. And they say, well, you know, they always have a hard accent. I said, well, listen, if you grow up in Brooklyn or the Bronx or
Yeah.
Boston, or you have an accent. It's the way it is. And you don't have to be a mobster to have an accent. Everybody in those neighborhoods had the same accent. That was the way it is.
Yes. I mean,
That's
I
what,
don't see anything wrong. You know what
no.
I feel bad about sometimes is that sometimes your children, my children, they'll get things like, "Is your dad in the mafia? Is your dad this, your dad that?" And I tell my kids, I go, just ignore that shit. It doesn't mean anything. People will always say something because people gossip and always will say something. So they're pretty good with that. And they kind of ignore that now, which is pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's the way it should be. But I don't like stereotypes. That says they can reinforce negative assumptions and biases about certain ethnic groups. And they do,
Yeah.
look, any ethnic group they have biases about, and they try to label them, and it's no good. It's no good. This one here I like. It's influence on fashion and pop culture. The fashion, language, and mannerisms depicted in mafia movies and TV shows have influenced popular culture. Certain phrases, clothing styles, even iconic movie scenes have become synonymous rather with the mafia, further shaping public perception. Well, let's go to the Bronx Tale. All those scenes in there, how many times have they been quoted? And I use
Oh
them.
my God. Yeah, The Godfather and Bronx Tale and Goodfellas, those movies have been quoted. Those movies have fit the dialogue is right into the mainstream community of America. I mean, so many guys always tell me now they always say things like, now you can't leave. Throw them in the bathroom. The guys on Wall Street, when some guy does a bad trade, they yell, throw him in the bathroom. He's now mush. The word mush has become a phrase. Anybody who's a loser or constantly has bad luck, they call them mush. I've been mush. He's the new mush. So it's just amazing to see. It really is.
Yeah, and I think more in mob movies than anywhere else. I've heard strangers and people that you never heard of are quoting scenes out of your movie, out of The Godfather.
Oh yeah,
Goodfellas, the same thing, and fashion too. Let's face
oh
it.
yeah.
Guys like the way wise guys dress. There's no question about it. There's so many people want to copy it, and I think you notice now. The women's fashion is back in style right now. The mob style fashion. My daughter Julia did something. She got, I think, a half a million views on it, just wearing a mob style outfit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's coming back.
People love those shark skin suits and those real shiny suits, fitted with the nice long collars and the nice ties. I mean, there's something stylish about that. There really is. I mean, back then people dressed up. I mean, back then wise guys would wear suits all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yes, I probably had, I probably had 50 suits. I'd have to wear one in the morning and then one at night, because you come home and change and you go out again. I hate it. Because of that, I don't like to wear a suit now, because I was in a suit every day.
Right.
It was either a suit or one of those crazy warm-up suits that we used to wear. Remember the warm-up suits?
Those real expensive warm-up suits by the designers would have those. I know. You had to wear a Gucci warm-up suit, but it had to be very expensive. You had to show people it was very expensive one. Exactly. That used to be funny. I remember that. You're right. I mean, the mob is the one who changed that, and everybody wore it then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was big. You either had a suit or a warm-up suit on. That was it.
Yeah, I remember John Gotti used to wear warm-up suits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Wow.
70s and 80s. So listen, mob fashion certainly did have an impact on people. This one is good. It's not good, but anyway, glorifying violence. The portrayal of violent acts committed by mafia members in movies and TV shows can sometimes glamorize and glorify violence. This can desensitize viewers to the real-life consequences of these actions, create a perception that violence is an essential part of the mafia lifestyle. I think there's no better example of that than at the end of The Godfather, when during the baptism, Michael Corleone was eliminating all of his enemies, violent acts, but people were rooting for him because these were his enemies that were looking to hurt him. So he took care of business. And I think in a way it does desensitize the act of murder, which murder is a horrible thing, let's face it. But when you see it in that light, you say, oh, he had the right to do that. He should have done that, and they were rooting for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question. And I think it comes down to what Machiavelli used to say, that man is basically evil, he used to say. And people used to say, wow, that's a terrible thing to say. But the reason why man doesn't do certain things is because you can't do it. There's laws. You can't. If someone hurts you or your family, if there were no laws, you just get a gun, go over there and kill them.
Right.
So I think what the mafia did was it gave us this feeling, wow, that's great what he did. I wish I could do that. So you're really rooting for the guy. You're rooting for Michael at the end. knowing that you can't do it, but wow. And that's why people love gangsters, because
Exactly.
they do things that we can't do. They say things and do things that we can't do. You
Exactly.
know, I remember that. I don't know if I ever told you the story. There was my friend who passed away, Phil Folio, who was like my brother. He died of COVID. And this this is back in Jesus. This is in the Giuliani days, and because he worked for Giuliani, and uh, his 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 wife was going to a beauty parlor back then. When you had the beauty parlor with the things in your hair, whatever. And the
Yep.
woman who owned the place said to her, his wife, now he worked under Giuliani. She said, I'm really worried. There was this club right next to him. It was a wise guy, not a wise guy club. It was a restaurant. I'm sorry, a restaurant, and they kept breaking this guy's window because he wouldn't sell to them because they wanted to make their restaurant expanded. So their
Right.
windows kept getting broken, and nobody knew who it was, but they knew it was these guys because you didn't have cameras back then. So she said to Phil's wife, I know your husband works with Giuliani. Could he find out who's doing this? Could he say something? I know it's them. So she told my friend Phil, and Phil said, what am I going to do? I got to catch them doing it. You got to prove they're doing it. And he went back to them and he said, look, to the woman, he said, look, I couldn't do it. I can't do anything. I'm sorry. I wish I could, but you got to, they got to break a law. She knew it was them. And the same moment, at that time, who did she speak to? One of the wise guys' wives was going there. So she mentioned it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved this woman and she loved going to this place. She mentions it to a capo. Capo mentions it to somebody else. They go into the restaurant. That night, those guys in the restaurant came to the woman in the beauty parlor, paid her for the windows they broke, and the window was never broken again.
Mm-hmm.
So Phil said to me, here am I, the second most powerful man in New York, and I couldn't help her. And here are these guys who spoke to them, and that night they were paid back the money from the windows that were broken, and never the window was broken again. He goes, wow. You
Yep.
know what I mean, Michael? There's something to be said for that, where you cut through the chase, and people love that. Love
Absolutely.
that.
And it's what I've said consistently, when we talk about things that are going on. There was no crime in our neighborhoods. We took care of the people
No.
and we didn't allow it. We cared for our people in the community and the neighborhoods. That's why people, oh, how could you love John Gotti? And he was this and that. He was great in his neighborhood. The people loved him. He took care of his neighborhood.
Yeah.
Fireworks on, 4th of July. Took care of the people. You don't, the expression. You don't do things where you sleep or where you eat.
Right.
We were always good that way. And I think people, when they see that, it masks a lot of other things that are bad that are going on.
Yes.
This
Yes.
guy at least feels for his own people. He takes care of them. So it desensitizes them to other things that might
Yes.
be going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why they say in Saudi Arabia, there's never a revolution, there's never protesting, there's never anything that goes on there. And the reason why is because they really take care of their people. They pay them, they give them money, health care, college, everything. They say, hey, there's no springtime there when they erupt. No, 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 not over there. They say, hey, we're
Exactly.
good, we're good.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. Interesting. Wow.
Very interesting. And then this here, I think, is kind of the last point. It's emphasizing loyalty and brotherhood. Movies and TV shows about the mafia often highlight the loyalty and brotherhood within these organizations. This portrayal can create a sense of admiration and respect for the strong bonds formed among members despite their criminal activities. Chazz, I think this has become more evidence since the rise of the mob genre on YouTube.
Mm.
The reason being because just ordinary people that tune in, and I call a lot of them mob groupies. Oh, you ever hear, well, he betrayed, and he's a rat, and he betrayed. And these are people that have never experienced the street, never anything like that. They don't understand what it is that they're saying, but they think that there's such this strong bond of loyalty on the street. And unfortunately, maybe at one time, but
Yes.
eroded over the past 30, 40, 50 years. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know,
No,
and
it's not. No.
I attribute a lot of that to the government stepping up its efforts and doing the things that they did with the RICO law and everything
Oh,
else.
yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that loyalty is it's just not there anymore. It's
The
not.
problem is when the RICO Act came in, not only did they rat, they composed. You know, they started composing things, making up things, you know. So
That's
before that, look,
you
when a
know
guy
what,
goes away for 40 years, it's a lot.
Chazz, that's a good way to put it. You know, they rat and compose.
And they compose.
Yeah,
Right. Not only do they sing, they start composing, you
yeah,
know, and they start writing things. And that's the real problem, you know.
yeah.
You know, so no, there is no loyalty. There once was, when you could do a small bit like a year, 2 years, 3 years, then they shut their mouths. But once the
Because
RICO came in,
even guys that got a 20-year bit back then,
yeah,
you're out with parole in 6 or 7 years.
yeah,
Nobody was afraid of that.
right,
You know,
right,
I'll never forget when I got a 10-year sentence when I did that. Junior looked at me and he said, "Don't even take your shoes off. You'll be home before you know it." Because I was under the old law, so I could make parole. You know, yeah, that's what he told me. You got what a break. Don't even take your shoes off. And that was the attitude back then.
right.
What's different when you're getting 50 with no parole and you're doing 85%? It's a whole
That's
different ball game.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or a
That's a
hundred.
whole different 100 years. You get 100. How about three lifetime sentences? You got to die 3 times and go away and come back. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. So I totally agree with you. It's you know, there is no loyalty anymore. There once was many, many years ago, maybe in the 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s. I think Valachi was the first guy to rat.
Yeah.
After that, the gates were open. Like I said, they started singing and started composing.
Yeah.
So that changed everything. Well,
You know,
Michael, it's been
I
great,
gotta say, I
man.
love that. I love that one line from the judge. I don't know if you remember. I don't remember where I heard it when he sentenced to a guy to a long time. I think he gave him a 50-year sentence. The guy said, "Your Honor, I can't do 50." And he said, "It's okay. Do as much as you can." Yeah.
Yeah, there was this guy Muzzy who did. He got like 3 years for assault, something, 3 to 5 years, and just says you're sentenced to 5 years in jail. And Muzzy, this guy from my neighborhood, said 5 years. I could do that standing on my head. He goes, well, I'm going to give you 2 more years to get back on your feet. And that's a true story. And the judge gave him 7 years.
Oh,
So,
what's that tell
hey,
you? Keep your mouth shut in court, right?
you keep your mouth shut and court. All right, Michael, it's been great. This is Chazz Palminteri,
The Wise, and I'm Michael Franzese.
the wise guy.
And we'll see you next time, people. Have a good
Next
week.
time. All right.